Friends, good morning from the City of the Angels. Last night was a big night for us because we got to spend some time with a lovely red lady from Sant'Agata Bolognese. Today we're doing something, I don't want to say down market, but something more practical. Now, if you have been following Cadillac, and if you've been following the show for a while, you have definitely been following Cadillac. This is like the stock and trade for Cadillac. The Cadillac SRX has been like the best-selling Cadillac for a very long time. Well, now it has been updated and is called the XT5, and when I first looked at this thing, I'm like, oh, they did like a mid-cycle refresh. Actually, they did a couple of more things. So why don't you and I unpack a bit of this for a special LA Auto Show tech review of the XT5. Okay, so there's a bit of a visual trick going on here. You and I have spent a lot of time looking at all new cars. And obviously, if you've been following cars for a while, you know that there is a all new car and then there's a mid-cycle refresh. You look at this and you say, well, it looks a lot like the SRX. Well, it turns out the SRX was based on something called Theta Epsilon. I know that doesn't mean a lot to us, but that was the platform the car was based on. Now what this is, under the sheet metal, it's an entirely new car, actually. It's based on a platform very creatively named C. I know, I don't know where they come up with the names of this stuff. So really underneath this thing, it is an entirely new car. And there's a couple of reasons for that. The logic isn't so much to change the look. The logic is to change the mass. So overall, from the SRX to the XT5, they've lopped off about 300 pounds, 275 pounds to be exact. The most of it, about half of that weight reduction, is coming from the body. Now, you guys know me as a Lotus guy. So if you look at the construction of the Lotus, or really most exotic cars, it's bonded and extruded aluminum. Basically, they sandwich pieces of metal, whether it's aluminum or high-strength steel together, and they glue it together. I don't want to say that's a lot of aluminum, or I don't want to say it's just like a Lotus, but it's in the construction technique, so there's less mass in the overall body. Now, the rest of the weight reduction came from back here, so the rear suspension, instead of this like funky H pattern they have, now it's like a traditional 5-link unit. Anyway, I digress. There are some other changes. So the engine. Now, you and I talked about the CT6, the coming CT6, the large sedan, the one that is going to be above the CTS. And that car is going to have a 6-cylinder engine in it. It's going to have a 3.6-liter 6-cylinder engine. But it's a totally different engine than in the CTS or like they share with the Camaro. There's a couple of different things with it. Number one, they wanted to go with more efficiency, so they added active fuel management, so it'll cut from 6 cylinders down to 4 cylinders, and then it has the active stop-start technology. And then I was talking with Larry, again, he's the engineer on this thing, and he like geeks out over this stuff. So what they've done here is they've given this a 2-stage oil system. So think about it, when the car is not under load, when it's under idle, there's less oil going into the engine or being used. And again, it's an efficiency thing. So think of it as, yes, it is a 3.6 engine, which the other car had, but it's a totally new 3.6, and it's the one that is shared with the CT6. But now the biggest change is definitely the interior. So if you've been watching the show for a while, we are very good friends with Bob Boniface, who runs exterior design for Cadillac, and he did a nice job here. But who you haven't seen on the show is Eric Clow. Actually, you did see Eric Clow on the show. If you watched the car garden party for Bob Boniface's house, Eric Clow was there. They had 2 CTSVs. Bob's was white, Eric's was black. But Eric runs interior design for Cadillac, and this is like a huge step up. And forget about the look. You can see it's more of a dashboard now. It's kind of a more luxurious look to it. Matter of fact, more simplified too. But the biggest change is the tactile feel, like this piece of leather here, this suede here, and especially this wood. Like in the CTS when it first came out, was it 2013? You and I talked about it, and it was just too busy. There was too much going on. It was like they were trying too hard. Here, you don't have that anymore. Here, it looks like one cohesive theme. Very nice job Eric did in here. And it's got the new Cadillac Cue System. So we drove the CTSV in Wisconsin, and that has just a faster processor. I still would like to see knobs, like this whole, the buttons with the haptic feedback. Frankly, friends, when you're driving a, what is this, a 3,500, 3,800 pound car, you need real buttons, tactile feel, of haptic feedback just doesn't work. So now if you've been following the show for a while, we're starting to see a theme here. This is now the third car that looks very much like the car that it replaces, but it's a totally new car underneath. So if you remember, we went to Aspen, Colorado with Melanie and we drove that Kia Optima, and then recently we drove the Chevrolet Camaro. They're both totally new cars like this, but underneath, completely different, not only design, but also execution of how they build the cars. And the general logic with all three of them was mass reduction. Like it was almost 300 pounds, a little over 300 pounds in some cases in the Camaro. It was like 200 some odd pounds with the Kia, and here we are almost 300 pounds, and it's all has to do with construction. So with that, I have to turn the question around to you. This is a theme that we're seeing more and more, and we're probably going to see more and more, where the look continues more evolutionary than revolutionary. Is this something you want to see more of? Or when you have a car as important as this, and frankly, this is their top seller, would you want to see more change? Would you want to see more revolutionary style? Like, for example, what do you like about the design? Like, notice the C-pillar is different, the front end is different, the interior is different, but the overall greenhouse is totally the same. Would you want to see the greenhouse different? Do you want to see this a little bigger? Like, for example, they've actually added 2 inches of length to the wheelbase, but the overall look still is the same. So let me know whether you like this, whether you don't like this, and what you would change. Let us know in the comments below or via our social media, MotoManTV, all one word, MotoManTV, all one word, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And with that, I want to leave you with 2 things. Number 1, we're going to come to you with more updates from the LA Auto Show, but make sure you follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, MotoManTV, all one word, for up-to-date pictures. We've been doing some Periscope stuff, so make sure you follow us. It's today and tomorrow. Today is what, Wednesday the 18th. Tomorrow is Thursday the 19th. And if you're at the show, come and say hello. And with that, I am going to say ciao from the new Cadillac XT5.